Welcome to the Why Marketing Matters for the Exit webinar. We have a lot to cover, but we've really focused in on three key areas that we want you to walk away with an understanding about from this webinar. And so the three key things we're going to discuss are: number one, why marketing matters for the exit in general. Number two, the vision value model and the concept behind this process that can be applied. And number three, some ways that you can identify if your strategy is even good. So we are focusing on why the marketing strategy and why marketing matters for the exit. However, even if you have a client that isn't in that 3 to 5 year mark of selling, they still can be doing things from a marketing perspective to get ready pre-exit. So one example of where the value building marketing strategy concept came into play is for a client that's a legal firm. And although they are not looking to exit in the next 3 years, their founder, however, was looking for their role for them as the brand to begin phasing out and to begin having that brand realignment to where the firm could stand on its own. But also they were looking to be able to phase themselves out from actually being responsible from the day-to-day legal activities. So eventually there certainly would be conversation of the exit, but they were able to pre-plan and kind of get things in order for more of a pre-exit with the value building marketing strategy concepts, some of which we're going to cover today. So through this, they were able to create standard operating procedures for their marketing efforts, which we can understand how that's going to increase their value. We were able to create scalable lead generation processes that they could implement internally and not be only dependent upon outside marketing resources. They're able to hire additional attorneys, and that owner, the founder, was able to refocus their energy, their efforts on other business avenues and build one of the other businesses that they have. So although marketing matters for the exit, it also matters for those businesses that are pre-exit to get organized and get ready so that they can plan properly for when they're ready to implement that 3 to 5 year out exit game plan. So talking a little bit more about why marketing matters. So for examples of why marketing matters, it's going to be because it bridges the gap. It creates diversification of revenue streams. It allows for brand realignment. And it also has the ability to reactivate inbound interest. So you might be asking yourself, what does that even mean? So first of all, strategy matters because you don't want to be just throwing darts, wasting money, not having ways to track things. And so no business is really ready to sell immediately. And that's where branding, marketing, it really can bridge the gap between where the business is today and ultimately what a buyer wants to see in the business. So for example, another area that we may see the ability to have value when it comes to utilizing marketing is diversification of revenue streams. So if you have a client that makes up 40 to 60% of your business, then that's a problem when you're going to sell. A buyer is not going to see that as having a balanced portfolio. So a part of that would be identifying new revenue streams, identifying ways to cross-sell current opportunities, identifying new business opportunities, and these are going to fall under having a strategic marketing plan. Another area that we see that marketing really matters in the exit is reliance of the owner. So if the business has been built on the brand and the expertise of the owner or the founder, then this is going to impact the multiplier. Having the business stand on its own is going to increase your multiple when you go to sell. So think about it. When growing the business is completely reliant on the owner's reputation because of their relationships, their expertise or history, it requires a new game plan to be able to be executed in order to build the brand around the business instead of the owner. That's key and crucial in order to get ready to sell. And that's where marketing comes in. The last place that we really see that marketing can build strength when it comes to the exit is inbound interest. If a business has been moving and grooving and they've been able to be very successful, but they haven't really had inbound interest because of their current lead channels, current client channels. Maybe their efforts just haven't had to focus on that. When you're talking about getting the business ready to sell, a buyer is going to want to see inbound interest. So if you don't have any incoming leads or queries and all the sales are only through those existing relationships or outbound sales, this is going to be a deterrent to potential buyers. So putting a plan in place that can really work to increase that inbound interest is just one of the other ways that your marketing strategy can really come into play. So these 4 examples are just a few of the reasons why marketing matters for the exit strategy. Let's move into the second phase of your webinar, where we talk a little bit about the vision value model with Heather.
So when we're talking about marketing strategy, a lot of people, do kind of have that question of, what does this have to do with exit planning? Why are these people involved in exit planning if they're in marketing? And the truth is, without having a great marketing strategy that aligns with where you're going and with the type of exit that you're wanting to pursue, you can actually do damage to that potential transaction. We're going to talk a little bit about why, but we use what's called the vision value model to make sure that the strategy that we create aligns with the type of exit and with what you see for the future of your business, rather than working against it. So we developed the vision value model to help our clients really verbalize what matters to them, so that we can create a strategy that's going to help them meet their goals, but not just a goal of growing the business or growing revenue. We want to help them meet the right goals by understanding what actually matters to them. So with the vision value model, we start with looking at vision. Where are you going? Where do you want to go with your business? That might be in the next year. It might be in the next 5 to 10 years. It kind of depends on where you're at in that trajectory. Side note, starting early is best. Getting in line with your vision as early as possible is only going to help you strengthen and work towards the right exit for you, or the right way of continuing to run the business. Not everyone has to exit right away. That's something that can happen down the road. But we want to understand, what is that vision? Where are you going? If it is an exit, what kind of exit are you looking for? Are you passing the business down to someone? Are you looking for a buyer? Are you looking for someone to come in and infuse some capital, and you can stay in the business for a while before you step out? These things are really important for us to understand, so that as we're building the marketing and branding, we can really bake into our strategy things that are going to help support that type of exit. And then we need to know, you as the business owner or the board of directors, where do you derive value from the business? And when we say this, we're not talking about the market value of your business, but we're really saying, where do you feel value? Now, that might be a paycheck. It might be a financial thing that you feel value from, and that is totally legitimate. You are allowed to say, I love that I get a great paycheck and that one day I'll sell this business and retire and not have to worry about money. That is a perfectly acceptable answer. But what we found is that most business owners, they don't derive value just from the monetary things. They feel value in the way that they provide solutions. Maybe they're doing something really unique and impactful with the way they provide solutions to their customers. Or maybe they're helping the environment or the community through the work that they do. Most often, people really feel value in the employment that they provide and the way that they've been able to train employees and really help nurture and develop them. They feel a lot of personal value in that. It's really important for us to understand where you get that value out of your business and not just the financial part, so that, again, we can create a marketing strategy that helps support those things, that helps support the legacy that you're creating, and that ensures that whoever comes in and runs this business next is also going to see the value in that. And it's not something that's just going to go away when you're no longer in the business. So a really great example of this is a local bank that we've worked with. We were brought in a few years ago to start cleaning some things up and getting a great marketing strategy in place, knowing that the board was ready to sell. This was pre-COVID, so that threw some interesting hurdles in our way. But when we first came in, the board was really interested in just getting the highest payout that they could. They wanted to increase transactions, they wanted to increase loans and deposits so that they could show that great balance sheet, show that they were doing all the right things, and attract the highest bidder. That's what they thought they wanted, at least. When we started taking them through the vision value model, though, we found that the board had really created a strong relationship with the employees that they nurtured and brought up. And as they started to think about going to the highest bidder, they knew this was probably going to be a New York-based bank that was going to come in and purchase them simply for the numbers and nothing else. And they knew that that meant that all of those employees that they had built relationships with and they had nurtured were probably going to lose their jobs in the transaction. And that was something that was heartbreaking to them. They really did not feel comfortable in that scenario. And so we started talking about, well, if the employees are really what matters, then let's take them and make them inseparable from the value of this bank. And so we flipped the script and we started building a brand plan around the local bank, the community feel, and the way that their people are so invested in the community, and why that makes them a stronger solution for local businesses and for people to use them for their bank. And we were actually able to get them to a position where they sold. They sold for more than they thought they were going to be able to. They actually got the highest offer came from another community bank that's growing and looking to add more locations. And they absolutely loved what we had built with the brand, with the people being so important and so keyed into the community. And so they were actually able to walk away with getting more than they thought that they would. The board was incredibly happy with that. Their shareholders were very happy. And all of the employees are planned to be retained. And so that's something that they just wouldn't have been able to accomplish without really going through that vision and value model and understanding what matters to them. So hopefully that paints a clear picture for you of why it's really important to, one, have marketing on your side as you're going through the exit planning process, because we really can help drive you into the exit that you want. And two, why it's important to understand and to have a connection to the emotional side of your business and how that impacts your business goals. So we're going to move into the third part of our webinar here, which is how to determine if you have a good strategy. So we've told you what you need to understand going into it and how you need to really connect with what matters to you. Now we're going to break down some things that you can look for in a strategy that's going to help you know that, yes, you've got something that's actionable and is going to work for your business, or when to be concerned and run for the hills.
So obviously a good marketing strategy is going to have a lot of moving parts, but we've pulled out 4 tidbits that basically you can do a little analysis to say, hey, is my strategy good? Am I on the right track? That's data, budget, standard operating procedures, and a post-exit plan. So let's talk about data. When we're thinking about data in relation to your marketing strategy, we've separated that out into internal data versus external data. So internal data is going to be like the financial statements and metrics. It's going beyond just the market value of your company, going beyond just kind of like the standard P&L. We really want to dive into your customer acquisition cost, your cost per lead, the lifetime value of your customer. We certainly want to look at the cost of goods sold and where your margins are, but essentially we kind of like to work under the context of the more data, the better. So whatever internal information you have available, whether it be related to your current budget, your current P&L, or some of those standard marketing internal data points like the CAC and the CPL, we want to be able to take a look at that, because any marketing plan that is good or great is going to be built upon your real numbers and not just concepts. And so you need to know what your numbers are first before you ever create a marketing strategy, and ultimately before you ever spend $1 on any marketing, and put those before you ever dedicate any money towards marketing. So outside of your internal data, we have the external data. This is going to be where we're looking at industry insights, marketing benchmarks, any sort of marketing research that we could pull into the mix. So it's external to your business operations. Those numbers and data points that influence and drive any of your KPIs, your OKRs. While we know that what really matters is what's happening in your business and what's working for you, those are the numbers that really matter as you're getting ready to sell. Your potential buyers are still going to be looking at those industry external numbers and comparing you to them. They're going to still be looking at other businesses within your industry, other competitors, and comparing you to them. So by knowing those, you can set a benchmark to be lower and show that you're more efficient compared to your industry. So how do you know if it's a good strategy? Ask yourself, did you and your team or your agency look at both internal and external data points before you ever went into the actual strategy and before you ever spent any dollars? So if we're talking about spending dollars when it comes to marketing, of course we got to hit on budget. So now that you know your numbers, you can formulate a marketing budget. Creating a budget without knowing your numbers is like hosting a dinner party without knowing how many people are coming. While traditionally it's recommended to invest anywhere from 7 to 15%, maybe 10% is the average of your revenue back into marketing, your numbers really will determine what's right for you. The budget should be based not just on a percent of revenue, but on a careful calculation of your customer acquisition costs, your long-term value, and the potential ROI within the strategies of your plan. So a good marketing plan will not use all of your marketing budget just because it's there, right? If we've done our due diligence to look at those internal and external benchmarks, those data points, we can create a budget that's really going to be based on true ROI, and also it's going to be based on your vision. So what is the vision? What is the long-term vision? What are the values of your company? And being able to bring that into the mix. So an example of where we see this show up is we worked with a water filtration company that they had put aside no more than 8% of their annual revenue for their marketing budget. So based upon our findings and strategy, the standard operating procedures for marketing initiatives that we put together actually only used 5%. We were able to show them how to increase their budget after the sale to meet the expected revenue goals and still stay in their 8% budget range. So essentially, we didn't need that full 8% right out of the gate in order to hit those ROI marks that we had in mind. We only needed to use that 5%. But because we knew that they could go up to 8, we were able to utilize that as part of the post-exit strategy. So that's just one example of how your budget really comes into play, and it shouldn't just be a number that you throw on that spreadsheet or in your dashboard. It should be something that you really know is like a living, breathing calculation based upon your true numbers. So the next phase we're going to talk about is standard operating procedures and post-exit plan and how these really come into play.
So when you get a marketing strategy, you're working with an agency or you're working with your internal stakeholders to create a marketing strategy, it's very easy to stay high level and just say, you need to do Google ads, or some people might be even more generic and say, you should be doing digital advertising. That's a real sign of a bad strategy. If you're not getting the detail and the information on how to implement each piece of the strategy and what to expect. So we use what we call marketing playbooks, which are basically your standard operating procedures for your marketing. And the cool thing about this is by adding these operating procedures that are very detailed, where basically anyone could come in and pick those up and understand how to run the marketing department at your organization, you're actually increasing the value of your business just by having these playbooks in place. So it's a great add-on to our overall goal of being able to generate more value in the business by having these playbooks. So what we suggest that is included in each operating procedure would be very detailed information on each campaign type or each piece of the strategy that you're going to implement. There should also be information on what to expect. So we should have benchmarks and goals to understand what's good performance and what's bad performance. You should also include, or the agency should include, how to track that. So for example, if they're telling you that you need to use Google ads, then they should be telling you how often you're tracking the performance of those ads, what a good performance looks like, what kind of, basically what kind of return on investment you should be getting out of those ads. They should be telling you how often you're checking that performance, and then also how often to pivot. So if you're running the campaigns that they suggested, you should know at what point do you cut your losses and say, okay, this is not performing the way that we thought it would. We've followed the operating procedure. We've gone through the revisions. We've tried different approaches. It's not meeting the goals that are laid out in the operating procedures. So at which point do we abandon that piece of the strategy and say, that's not working, it's not a good use of budget, so we're going to move on. Having these marketing playbooks for each piece of your strategy is going to make it super clear so that anyone who comes in and is running your marketing department knows exactly what's going on, exactly what to expect. And you as the business owner can actually take the important metrics that are laid out in those playbooks and include them in your business dashboards to be able to understand the health of your marketing department. When a buyer comes in and sees that you have this level of detail in your strategy, where your marketing department knows exactly what to do, it's all documented, it's turnkey, it's ready for anyone to be able to manage that for you, they are going to really understand that you are a very systematized and organized business, and that's going to help them see more value in what you are doing. So a great example of where we've done this is with a local real estate group. So this real estate group, they are under a broker, but they really don't want to be held captive to that broker. And so kind of similar to the first example that Randy gave, they're not ready to exit yet, but they're in that exit phase of, they know they're not going to do this forever. They need to have a way out, a foot out the door, and they want to be able to take the book of business that they're building and be able to get maximum return on that. And so they know that by staying in these captive systems that their broker has, that's not going to work for them. They're going to lose a lot of value in the business through that. And so we help them come up with some ways that they can use their own systems. Basically, they've been able to develop systems that are going to increase the value of their business because of the way that they're able to operate outside of the broker. We've helped them find new ways to generate leads. So again, getting outside of what the broker provides and doing more of their own work to generate leads and to generate interest in the brand, so that again, people see more value in that business and it's able to stand on its own. And then creating the SOPs for this so that, again, anyone who comes in and is running marketing knows exactly what to do and what to expect, and how to pivot so that if something's not performing as it should, they know exactly in that playbook what to do next. So this has helped gear them up to be able to really have the freedom to change brokers if they want, start their own brokerage if they want, sell their book of business to someone else when the time comes. They've got a lot of flexibility and options because of the way that they've been able to build out this piece of their marketing that's completely independent. So then we go into the post-exit plan. So we talked about all the things that are important to your marketing strategy. As someone who is sitting here watching this webinar, you are at least thinking about exiting your business at some point. So if your marketing strategy does not include a post-exit plan for you, then you're definitely missing out. Most of you will not just sign on the dotted line and walk away from the business and never have to think about it again. There's going to be a transition period. So you're going to probably be expected to meet some specific goals. In most cases, we'll see that a buyer comes in, they may infuse some additional capital, give you some cash flow that you didn't have before, and then they're going to expect you to do something pretty spectacular with that. They're going to expect to see sales shoot up. They want that, the hockey stick, right? So we need to have a plan in place so that when you do hit that part of the timeline, you know what to do. You have a plan in your back pocket that you can take the additional cash, do some really smart things with it, to get great results so that you get your full payout, you get your full compensation, you're not having to walk away from the business and leave anything on the table. So thinking about, post-exit planning, what does that look like? It's different for everyone, and some things can make it more complicated, right? Like if you have a partnership where one person is going to exit the business, but the other one's going to stay on and continue to run it. So we had a company that we were working with that they do leadership performance coaching and consulting. Two partners started the business. One is very ready to start thinking about retirement, and the other one not there at all yet. So when we first started working with them, we noticed that there was a lot of issues with their employees really kind of having some insecurities, and they honestly were just kind of difficult to work with. And as we dug in and started to kind of figure out why is this relationship not working the way we should, it turns out that these employees really were concerned with what their future held. And so they weren't able to put everything into the work that they needed to do because they were distracted worrying that, when guy one retires, are we going to have jobs? Is this business going to shut down? Are things going to keep going as normal? Is another owner going to come in? What's going to happen? It's going to be very different from today, and that's scary. And so we brought them in and said, let's stop what we're doing here with what you hired us for, and let's actually look at where you're going with this business. Let's take you through the vision value model and understand what's going to happen, over the next several years with the business, so that you have a plan, you can communicate that plan to your employees, and you guys can share a vision of where you're going. Through this process, we were also able to really start taking the emphasis off of the owners and start to build a brand that was based on the company instead of the owner's reputation and their relationships, because we knew one of them was about to retire. Eventually the other one's going to retire or leave, or something's going to happen. This business is either going to stop existing when they're both gone, or they're going to be able to sell it or have someone else take over. So we had to start really building the brand back to be focused on that business. We also developed a lot of automation for them and processes, going back to those SOPs. We were able to put in place processes so that, again, all of the information didn't just live in these owners' heads. It was all developed out, documented, and a lot of the day-to-day that was being done manually, we were able to put into automation. So again, building more value into the business because we're able to do things without human power operating them, able to build out that sales program and the brand that are separate from the owners. So they went on vacation for the first time in a long time. They actually took their wives and went on vacation together, which was amazing. They hadn't been able to do that before because they thought the business would fall apart. And we were able to get them aligned in that vision so that everyone from them all the way down to through all the employees knew what was happening, what to expect. And there wasn't this uncertainty and kind of discontent because of that. So it was a really great opportunity for us to say, we know you're exiting, one of you. Let's make a plan for what's going to happen afterwards. And there was some additional capital that was going to come into the business through that. And so we were able to also show them how to use that to hire some more people for their marketing department and just have a really clear plan for what they were going to do going forward.
So if you've been listening and you think, I don't have any of those things in line for my business, I really need to get some help, we do have an opportunity here for you to work with us. Now, if you've been listening, you know that having the right marketing budget in place is critical to creating a strategy that supports your vision and actually gets you where you want to go. The right budget is not just some cookie cutter number, but how do you know what's right for you? If you feel like you're in this black box of budgeting, don't worry, we can help. Maybe you feel unsure if the budget you have allocated is even the right amount, or you're unclear on how to know if that number actually aligns with your vision and your goals. And if you're being really honest, you haven't taken the time to analyze your marketing budget and look at both those internal and external numbers to understand where you need to be. If that sounds like you, it's time for a value building budget audit. The audit is designed to help businesses develop a budget based on actual internal data while also taking external data into consideration. to walk away with a number that aligns with the vision of the business, to feel confident as you take the steps to develop your marketing strategy that the budget number makes sense for your ROI and your goals. So you can apply for the value building budget audit, and we will reach out to determine if our process is the right fit for you.